Well, we have been so busy around here. So much going on. We have this container shelter going up, hoping to get this up before the winter here, where it's this archway it's 40 foot wide over the containers that we'll be able to park some buses under here. We've got the new sawmill that we've got. That's awesome. We just got new extensions for it, so we'll be able to do lumber up to 14 feet long on it. We've been working on the bucket truck that we've got. The radiator was obviously bad, so we got the radiator replaced on that. That was a big project on that as well, to have the bucket truck. We had the golf cart that we upgraded to the lithium batteries and made it solar powered so we can drive it around the property without having to ever plug it in. We're finishing up the project on the 4104, that's Michael's bus. That should be out of here this week. Obviously, we did the paint job on Lenny. This fall has just been crazy busy. We had the big project with the suspension on the flexible bus. That took up a lot of time, more than a week, more than we thought it would. The engine rebuild that we did on the 4104 for Oz, it's just been crazy around here. Plus, we've had buses getting towed in. Just a lot of stuff going on. Our buddy Lance, we mentioned that he's shutting down his business. So he's going to be liquidating, selling off his buses. So we've been, ferrying his buses here. And that brings us back to this bus that we got to finish up here. This one, if you remember when it came in, it had bad radius rod bushings on it. And it turned out that it wasn't just the bushing. It's because the bolts were broken off on the mount for the radius rod, so it was allowing it to tweak sideways. So the bushing was worn real bad, and the radius rod wasn't mounted at the correct angle, and when you'd hit the brakes, it would move, and it was all because the bolt was broken off that mounted it on. So we ended up we couldn't get that out, so we had to replace that whole piece of the suspension on there to do that. And then after that, we discovered it had real bad wheel bearings, and then we did airbags and everything else that came along with that. And then it had this huge, massive oil leak where oil was just pouring out of the side of the bus we had to fix. It had bad exhaust manifold gaskets on both sides. We had to replace those. So now it's actually got turbo boost and real power again. This is just a big project, and now we're going to get back to it here. The last few things that we got to do. It had a leak in the roof that we have to get to, and then check out some issues with the temperature gauges on it. All right, the leak on the roof is around the satellite dish area, and he's never going to use this again, so we're going to remove it and then patch up any holes up top that we see with that. Once we got the cover off, it's pretty easy to remove these, just a few bolts that hold them down and then patch some holes. But you can see around this, where the cabling goes in, that's where it's probably leaking the most. But there's a few areas around these little panels too, where it could have been leaking. A few other items on the punch list of this is replacing this mirror that was broken. It's motorized mirror, so we got a little bit of wiring to do, and we're replacing the whole arm, everything on it. All right, so here we're gonna finally get it out on the test drive here. After all that work that's been done to it, we got a lot of things to check out.
Or pull. It used to pull really bad, but I'm guessing it's because that radius rod was allowing the axle to move.
I don't know if it's the seat, but it feels really smooth.
Oh, here's the shake as well.
The cabinetry and stuff really rattles when you hit little bumps and stuff in here. Man, this thing's got some get up and go now.
doesn't work, but it is peppy, peppy, peppy. Transmission shifts a little hard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that gauge layout on it.
What do you mean? Like where they are?
Yeah. Normally like the engine coolant and oil pressure next to each other.
Mhm.
That was the farthest two things apart. This turn signal's working or not. I hear it clicking or anything. Let's see if I can side view here. This is a hell of a blind spot here in this mirror.
think so.
Saw the bag fly out.
Mm-hmm.
Steering wheel's not perfectly straight. It's only 50 degrees outside today, so but I would say it's a little more cool than it should be. So I'm wondering if there's the discrepancy in the gauge for the dash. So it's really running about 180. It's only showing that it's about 155 right now. Just put the thermal gun on it, compare the readings when we get to the top of the hill. Near full throttle on it because I'm letting off. That's too much. It does not lack power.
Yeah, so here this gauge is reading about 145 for the coolant temperature, and we know that can't be right. So there's something going on here with the gauge.
That part's reading warmer. Open that door and see if you see any hint of that oil leak that we had from before. The big one that was coming out of the door. I don't see anything like by the gauges like we had before. It looks pretty dry.
As I suspected, the gauge on the dash is reading that the temperature is about 145, and it's really closer to 170. So there's a big discrepancy there. We need to figure out if it's the sending unit or the gauge on that. He had an issue where he was only running like 190 and the engine shut down. And that was a sign for us that there was an issue going on here. So it sounds like the shutdown is correct temperature when it shut down, but it was running a lot hotter than what it really was. So we got to get that corrected for him.
See that white smoke rising up the holler through the trees, and from a mile away you can hear them play as they climb that hill with ease. But at the top of that mountain there's a new life waiting for those who can make the run. If they can make it to the top, Scott will put them in the shop till their new life has begun. Mountain, where the buses come to run. Bus Grease Mountain, we're gonna get that big job done.